and skills that these workers have learned to hack farming again, to decode the lifestyles and social connotations associated with both traditional and industrial farming. So for ages we've had this very uncomfortable relationship between industrial and agriculture life in factory farms, and this could be an opportunity where we have a new kind of relationship, and I'm calling it farming plus plus. The next animal, mouse. It's a gerbil, but no difference, mouse. So I get asked a lot about how this joystick factory is doing now. And to be honest, despite our efforts, it's had to downsize as a mouse factory empire started expanding into our facilities. But the impact of how factory workers have become the fringes of this innovation cycle is growing. I was once told by an educator a couple of years ago that when a teacher in a classroom would tell the children about the little mouse, these kids would immediately think about the computer mouse as opposed to, you know, the furry little rodents with big ears. But just within a few years, the new generation of children have started associating back to the organic mouse again. In fact, last month I just read that schools in the US have started reconsidering if it's even worth the effort to teach these classic pointed devices. So should we be surprised if the mouse factory would also fall into the same fate of becoming obsolete? Well, what really surprised the first inventor of the mouse back in 1963, Douglas Engelbart, is how long the mouse actually lasted for. So designing for those affected by the very limited life of technology is really a no-brainer. And recently I've realized that this actually speaks for potentially all the manufacturers. In Chris Anderson's book, Makers, the New Industrial Revolution, we're hearing this very familiar lesson of how workers, skilled workers in large facilities are being outsourced in an age of DIY new web makers. We're told that a world of bits, as in data, is all well and good, but it must relate to a world of real, as in things. And I'd like to extend that the world of things must relate to a world of food. Chicken, not so cute, but yummy. So when I was in Beijing, I'd be dining with my friends, and you know, when you're this Chinese girl hopping around, you have this opportunity to have finally authentic motherland cuisine, and you end up ordering the most stereotypical food there is, chicken feet. So I see it as a delicacy because it's got, you know, hours of skilled labor and centuries of tradition, but it's probably becoming rather unfashionable in this emerging globalized middle class culture who are becoming quite squirmish by this rather barbaric food. So to put me off, my friends were telling me this story about how raw chicken feet were being exported, literally shipped out of American battery farms as waste product, direct into Chinese kitchens as delicacies. And I thought, this is quite a beautiful story actually. You know, if we think about a lot of the traditional foods, things like carps, bullfrog, crayfish, rabbits, pigeon, jellyfish, these are all the things that we spend millions, possibly even billions, combating in biolabs everywhere. Why can't we just eat them? Although, okay, this might be a really, you know, Chinese way of looking at things, but you know, before we were activists by refusing to eat certain groups of foods. What if we were just activists by we could perform this by eating to eliminate? We could eat to extinguish. You know, and that's a new way of activism, but then just quietly abstaining. So maybe what I'm saying is that as societies and consumers, we should be demanding much more from our food systems. In the past few years, we've witnessed activism move from a fringe sphere to an integral part of our digital world in Anonymous, and media in WikiLeaks, and architecture in Occupy. And trust me, people thought this was hilarious when it first started. But what if, you know, now that we're already expressing ourselves in the way that we eat, in regions where people don't have the opportunity to express their political views in traditional ways, this form of productive activism could gain support with really tangible results. So political foodism, or whatever people will call it, could be a platform where agriculture could be the new way of activism. So whether if you're a girl watering plants in some factory, or an expanding mouse empire, or an iron producer running out of demand, you're all a part of this manufacturing world that's being pushed into the fringes. And farmification provokes a change in our expectations from food systems and manufacturing. By joining these two separate cycles, we're asking that question of which one we should choose. So, to recap, we've had a look at the role of speculative design, and possibly hoping to hammer in how much we need it. And we've had a look at how I use it to digest large complexities relating to the fringes, and examine mutually beneficial relationships to maintain these services, such as parasitic spas by cat ladies, and water filtration services run by conspiracy theorists, and historical tours by activists. When we apply these methods to the technology world, we start to see the growing number of people in manufacturing being designed out by technology. We've ventured into a joystick factory workers' everyday life and reflected on their unintentional impact on the global loss of agriculture. This led to farmification, a system of part-time farming for people at the end of innovation cycles. Farmification has raised up some of the issues surrounding food technology to invite further proposals that could save ecologies, give political voices to those without, and alter the existing environments of food production. What's the message here? Well, it's easy to perceive the fringes, these closed-off entities, to be ignored and sidelined. But when we start to rewire these systems, services, and products, we can really tangibly witness the interconnectedness of all these networks. And I hope that through these curious proposals in speculative design, we can think more critically and demand more from our futures, food and technology and design, for a potentially more global open vision. Thank you.